So I'd like to introduce you to a very simple exercise that is amazing for the lungs. Now in Chinese medicine, the lungs are considered the tender organ. Tender means it's the first one to be affected by the change of weather. For example, if you have a sudden cold spell, people get coughs and colds and so on. But the lung meridian, the lung channel, the energy pathway is not just related to the lungs. The skin is part of the lung meridian. So if you have any problems with psoriasis, eczema, all that kind of thing, or lung problems, bronchitis, asthma, emphysema, all those kind of things, illnesses, then this will be an amazing qigong system for it. So basically, you have your feet shoulder width, and in the outsides are parallel to the wall if you're in a room, and the insides are slightly turned inwards. This is to open up the sacral area. And you breathe through the nose at all times, not through the mouth. If you've got a blocked nose, that might be a difficult thing, but normally. So this is very different. There's another Chinese system which is now very popular, Pinyi Qigong, which is very fast like this. So this is different. This is specifically for the lungs, and you only do it at a maximum of 5 to 7 minutes, and you do it twice a day, ideally. If you've got severe problems, you need to do it regularly, maybe even 3 times a day, but not more than, say, 5 to 7 minutes. Whereas this other one, you can do 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on your level of illness. So the feet are parallel, the knees are slightly bent, and the pelvis is slightly tucked under. It's like you're sitting. Okay, so even when you're doing this, you keep that position, keep the thighs, buttocks relaxed. The reason for this is that the hips, the knees, and the ankles are in one line. It keeps you stable. So the hands come up about shoulder height, not too high, and the hands, the fingers are open. And your intention, in Qigong, intention is very important. So you're intending the qi, the life force, to go through all the fingers. So you just have the fingers, and you have the image of the fingers going through to the nail points. The nail points are the beginning and ends of all the meridians. The lung and colon, which are a pair in the Chinese system, are on the index finger and the thumb. Okay, so just to point it out. So you do this with the breath. So I'll start. So okay, so just explain what that was. So you do 7 of the swings up, and then after the 7 you squat, and it's the reason for that is to stimulate the qua, what in Chinese they call the qua, which is like the bridge. It's under the armpits, and in this groin area are powerful lymph nodes. So when you do that, it's squeezing the lymph, and the lymph is part of the immune system. So it's whenever you walk and things like that, it works. But this exercise is specifically designed for that. So we do 7 of those, 7 of the up thing, and then you squat and you push up 3 times. And you make sure that the knees are not beyond the edge of the toes. In other words, your bottom needs to go back a bit. Okay? So the knees do not go beyond the edge of the toes. The reason for that is that it starts to weaken the knees, so you don't want that. Good, so I'll just do a little bit more. Okay, so in order to get 5 to 7 minutes, you put a timer. That's the best way to do it, otherwise you lose count. So here's another very important thing. If you start to get dizzy, you can try slowing down the swings, but if you're still dizzy, stop it and then gradually build it. So if you do only 30 seconds, that's fine. Then next day you do 30 seconds and maybe a little more, and the next day maybe you do a minute and so on. But if your body, if you get dizzy, lightheaded, and you feel like woozy, then stop it. The reason for that is the lungs are telling you it's had enough. And people with very weak lungs, that could happen. So it's really important you pay attention. As I said, we spend a lot of time with the lungs because they're like it's not a weak organ, but it's the one that's vulnerable to change of weather, but also grief. For example, if someone dies or your partner leaves or something, very often we get a cold and so on. It's the emotion of grief is very closely related to the element metal, which is lungs and colon. So I hope this is of value to you. Well, it will be really valuable if you do this regularly, and it builds the lung chi basically. Each organ has got its own level of chi, but the lungs are, for me, I pay a lot of attention to that. The reason why I've got all these clothes on is because it's a cold day. Oh, by the way, I was going to say, in the summer you'd be barefoot, and when you're squatting down, your intention is going into all the toes, so you're spreading the toes a bit, just like when you spread the fingers, and your intention is the chi going through all the nail points. So as I said, if when you do this regularly, it will really help with your lungs and conditions. So lungs relate to eczema, as I said, bronchitis, pneumonia. If you're prone to coughs and colds, this would be a really good one to do as well. And eczema, psoriasis, doesn't matter how entrenched it is in your system. The more you do this, the better your system will get. Blessings for your journey.